All right, let's call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. I'll appoint Mr. Fournier to act in the absence of Mr. Manning. And I guess we don't have another alternate to act in place of Mr. Davies. So we're six. First order of business is the minutes of the November 18th, 2020 meeting, regular meeting. Anyone have a correction? I do have one, just a typo. In paragraph 5 on page 2, the spelling of Mr. Gramegna's name is, the second M should be an N as in Nancy.
Oh, okay. Under staff report?
Under staff reports. That was the only one I found. Anyone else? I'm not sure that the whole discussion of accessory dwelling units was correct, but I didn't take detailed notes of that and don't recall.
Actually, I read through it and thought it was pretty on it.
Okay. It just, I wasn't sure about attribution of some of the comments. That's all.
Okay.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes from the November 18, 2020 meeting as amended.
Do we have a second?
Jim Cropley, I second it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Davey has moved to approve. Mr. Cropley has seconded. I'll go by roll. Ms. Piano? All in favor, Ms. Piano?
Aye.
Mr. Fournier?
Do I need to abstain? I wasn't on the docket.
I think so. Mr. Robbins?
Aye.
Mr. Cropley?
Aye.
Mr. Davey?
I will abstain since I wasn't there for the entire meeting.
And the chair votes aye. So by my count, that's 4 yeas, no negatives, and 2 abstentions.
That's what I have as well.
Mr. Davey and Mr. Fournier.
And you can note for the record at the Mannings have joined the meeting at 7:38.
Okay. In which case, I appoint Mr. Fournier to act for Mr. Davey.
Ben Davies.
For Ben Davies, sorry. And Mr. Manning is seated for himself. So, next item of business, and just to be clear, the approval of the minutes with corrections has passed by a vote of 4-0 with 2 abstentions. Item 4 on the agenda, Residents Forum. This is an opportunity for anyone to comment from the public on a matter that is not on the agenda tonight. Are there any members of the public that wish to comment on something that's not on the agenda?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Since it's possible that some of the members of the public who are here tonight might want to speak on the special permit application, which we are not actually going to hear, should they speak now, or we give them an opportunity to speak later?
My usual approach is to open the public hearing, and if anyone wants to speak before it's continued, let them speak during the public hearing. that because it's not 7:45, and we noticed it for 7:45. So I guess just for the public's input, if they wish to speak about that, we'll give them an opportunity when we open the public hearing and deal with the continuance request.
And I might add that since the public hearing is open, any discussion about that particular item would have to come in under the public hearing because it would be part of the record. So you can't do it unless you're in the hearing.
Right. That's strictly true. So that you have a clean record of the actual public hearing. Okay. So again, calling to the public, is anyone here who would like to make themselves heard about a specific issue that's not part of the public hearing on the Notch Road application? Unmute yourselves or wave or use some similar method if you can. All right, apparently hearing nothing. We have a few more minutes before the public hearing time, so I'm going to move on to item 5, staff reports.
You want to go first, Patrice?
Go ahead, Jim.
So, regular activity has slowed down a little bit as it normally does this time of year. It's been a busy year, so we're happy for the little bit of relief we get there. It'll probably remain a little bit slow until usually around the beginning of March with regard to, permitting and inspections. We'll be busy right up until the Christmas holiday, and then, things will back off after that. Still have not heard any, I think we reported recently that we participated in a hearing regarding 65 Shoddy Mill Road for wetlands violations. I did testify at that. Still are waiting for a decision from the judge on that matter. Our town attorney did send a strong letter regarding a violation notice we had issued for a non-permitted driveway. I believe the address is 11 Hebron Road. We have yet to receive a response. It was our hope that those individuals would respond to the attorney's letter since they've had a notice of violation and cease and desist order without having to go through the court system to get compliance. So far, that hasn't happened. We're going to give them another couple of weeks, and then we'll take it to the next step. We are still dealing with the shed at the end of Mount Sumner Road. Those individuals did reach back out to us finally, and we've agreed that they will have it gone by February 1st. Otherwise, the matter will be referred to the town attorney, and we'll be working on filing action in court for that matter. So we're, moving forward with some enforcement action. The only other issue I have that we're working on for enforcement is a complaint about the keeping of chickens up on Brookfield Road. And that is, the individual has actually applied for an application. We've clarified the regulations to that individual, and they seem to be working toward compliance. Is there any questions?
I do. And just so the record's clear, you just heard Mr. Rupert, who's the zoning enforcement officer. The shed issue, is that an unpermitted building or is it a improperly located building, or both?
Both. So our regulations, would say that a shed is an accessory structure to a residential dwelling. There's no dwelling on the property.
Okay. Yeah. That's what
so from that perspective, it's a violation. It was also constructed without building permits or zoning permits.
Oh, so a triple bonus, huh?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions from any other members of the commission?
Hey, Jim, what's happening with the Lindale farm?
Well, if you remember, the Planning and Zoning Commission allowed them to come back with their application not later than the end of December without paying an additional fee. I've had a conversation with Attorney Penny. Yeah, he called last week to let us know that they were having some issues just finishing up their application because Mr. Mihawk, who's their surveyor, has had some injuries that he's trying to recover from. They do understand that they have to get their application by the end of December for two reasons. Because by the end, if they do it after the first of the year, they'll have to pay another application fee. And if they don't come before this commission in January, I'll be turning it over to the town attorney for court action.
Right, because you have an active cease and desist, right?
That is correct.
Okay, and you've just forborne because they had represented that they were coming back in.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Rupert?
I think Chris had a question.
Chris?
Jim already asked it.
Okay.
I was going to ask the same thing as Jim.
Arlene, I thought you had your hand up, but maybe not. No? Okay. All right. Ms. Carson? Anything?
Just been working, as Jim said, on the items on the agenda, also trying to get draft for the ADU for our January meeting for you all, and
Great.
working on the annual report for the Planning and Zoning Commission. We think it was the first Wednesday in December last week, we received our bronze certification for sustainable CT. And so we are now going to be heading for the silver certification. So I will be gearing up for that in January as well.
Will you and Mr. Rupert be at the joint meeting of the land use boards on Monday, the 14th?
I was planning to be there. Yes.
Okay.
I'm also planning on being there.
All right. I guess this is a good opportunity to remind members of the commission that everyone is invited to and encouraged to attend that meeting, including members of the public, I suppose. Any other questions for Patrice? Okay, hearing none. It looks like it is now after 7:45, so we can now open the public hearing on application for special permit, proposed garage, office building, excavation business, equipment storage and material processing areas, One Notch Road, William Phillips, application number PL 20-12, with a request to continue the public hearing to January 13th, 2021 by the applicant. I guess, Ms. Phillips, you're here on behalf of Mr. Phillips? And she's muted. I don't know.
Hi, I'm unmuted now. Yes. Yep. We just wanted to confirm that that was okay, that we could have the continuance.
The commission has to vote on it, but I don't see any reason why not. Does the applicant waive any time limits that might still be in effect for completion of the public hearing?
Yes.
Thank you. Does any member of the commission have a question for Ms. Phillips or for staff before we act on that request? I'm not seeing anything.
I just want to say for the record, Adam, we would still be operating under the governor's extension.
Right, but I'm making sure.
No, I know. I just want to be sure that when you go to that, get to that point.
Right. Okay, I see that there are people who might have an interest in this application who are present virtually. So I'd like to give members of the public who want to say anything for the record so that and it will be noted in the minutes and on the recording, the opportunity to do that briefly. But since we're not going to deal with the actual application and there will be another opportunity on January 13th, I'd ask them to be brief and perhaps supplement with anything in writing that they wish us to consider rather than spending a lot of time tonight, simply as a courtesy. Anyone who wishes to speak can indicate that, unmute yourselves, wave your hand, whatever you want to do.
Hello.
Okay, I see Mr. Bowden.
Yes.
Would you just identify yourself, please? I'll recognize you.
Sure. My name is Ronald Baldwin. I live at 2 Cook Drive in Bolton.
Okay, and what would you like to say?
I was just trying to get into Zoom. We had a little trouble last time I tried to get in at the last meeting. So I was just checking it out, and it seems to be okay. I was sent an individual HTTP address to log in on, and I was wondering with a password, and I didn't have to use the password, which was kind of strange, but my neighbors are interested in doing this also. So I thought I would come through tonight and write down just how I did it so that I could pass it on to them. Would they have to call the town to say, send me the proper HTTP address? Or how are the other neighbors going to be informed? I can send out an email because we're on a community well and I have all their emails address. But I don't know how to tell them to do what I just did tonight, because would they have to call the town? Then the town would again send them on the day or the day before the password or the HTTP address.
Patrice, do you want to try to answer that if you can? Because I'm not sure I know the exact answer.
Sure. We prefer you not share the HTTP address for security reasons. And if they would like to email the office, or Ron, if it's easier, if you send a joint email with them all CC'd on the email, we can return the email to all of you and have the address on there if that's easier. We just prefer to know who's coming on because we've had an issue in the past, but they're trying to keep this as secure and Zoom bomb free as possible.
Okay, I will send out an email to see if that's appropriate to them. And if it is, then I will send one bulk thing to you rather than you receiving a half of, 20 different emails.
Either way, whatever works. But if you have a joint email and you want to do that, we're happy to do it that way for you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it, guys. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bowden. Anyone else want to be heard or have a question? I don't see. Unmute yourself or use your wave function if you're using a computer. Don't see anyone.
I will just note for the record, Mr. Chairman, that we did receive, we received a couple of emails last month, which were included in the record. And we received another email, which you got a copy of from a Mr. Edward LaPlante this time. Yeah. And that is also part of the record now. And that was sent on Friday, December 4th to the office.
Okay. And I'll note two things for that. For the record about those things. First of all, Mr. LaPlante and Ms. Skoog's email asks about how to access the Zoom.
And they were sent the information today or yesterday.
Great. Yesterday. Okay. So perhaps since they're asking, you should put them on the list for circulating the information next time so they don't have to ask again.
Yep, we've done that.
Very good. Thank you. And then the other thing I would note is that we did get an email from Attorney Fiorentino on behalf of Mr. Phillips, specifically asking for an extension or continuance of the application and the public hearing to the January meeting date. So, and that we can take action on that now. Does any member of the commission have a question or ask for information or want to say anything before we move to that issue? Okay, I don't see any. Do we have a motion about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I might suggest if you have the minutes in front of you from last meeting, you could use the same motion and just change the date.
We certainly could. Let me find it.
It would have been on page
2.
Probably 2, I'm going to guess.
Okay, Mr. Manning made that motion. I might as well do it. The chair moves to continue the public hearing on Mr. Phillips' special permit application PL 20-12 for a proposed garage office building, excavation business, equipment storage, and material process areas at 1 Notch Road to Wednesday, January 13th, 2020 via Zoom at 7:45 p.m. as requested by the applicant, applying the governor's executive order extension and the applicant's consent and waiver of time standards to continue. Does that motion have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. So the chair has moved to continue the public hearing. Mr. Manning moved to second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Davey?
Mr. Chair, when you made the motion, you gave the date of the next meeting as January 13th, 2020. I believe it would be 2021.
Thank you for that correction. Please consider the motion corrected. Any other comment or discussion? Hearing none. All those by roll call signify yay or nay, or any other vote. Ms. Fiano? Mr. Fournier?
Hey.
Mr. Davey?
Aye.
Mr. Robbins?
Aye.
Mr. Cropley?
Aye.
Mr. Manning?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That's unanimous, unless I missed somebody.
Nope, that's 7.
All right. Next item on the agenda will be old business. We cannot take up number 6A, the special permit, so we'll continue that to our next meeting. Item B, other, is there anything else?
I have nothing else. I don't know if any other commissioners have anything they want to discuss, but doesn't look like it.
Probably not under old business. Okay, under new business, discussion and possible decision, the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. We should be so lucky. There's a proposed budget narrative and there's a proposed budget. So
I can put any of this up on the screen if you'd like. It's up to you. However you want to work this and whatever you want to talk about in whatever order.
what's your pleasure, commissioners? Do you want it on the screen or do you have it available to you? Yes? Screen? Okay, please do, Patrice, if you would. Put it on the screen.
Which do we want first, the actual budget?
Start with the budget narrative.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, either one. I guess I don't actually run this commission anymore.
There you go.
There you go. The only thing I wanted to add is under section 2, where it indicates that we're not asking increases, or maybe somewhere we just note that the fiscal year that we're talking about starts with probably the period of time that the COVID restrictions are most likely to end. And I don't know if there are applications that have been held up or waiting because of COVID.
I mean, I'll ask Jim as well, but there's nothing that we know about that has basically, they've said to us, we're going to wait till this is over. I mean, there may be people holding on to things that we don't know about it. I'm not sure if that's what you mean.
Well, I did see an article in the paper the other, maybe it was today, about the drive-in properties.
That was just an article that's garnering some discussion because it's apparently being heavily advertised.
Yeah. My sense is that if there are applications that didn't get filed because of that, they're most likely to be filed in that fiscal year. And we might get, instead of getting our usual 1 or 2 in a year, we might get a whole bunch right around June, July, August, September. And for us, a whole bunch would be 3, but it still would be more than usual.
But they would be big ones.
And they would be bigger ones, and they would probably require multiple hearings. I mean, even something like the drive-in property is likely to require multiple hearings, right? 3, 4 potentially, because it's either going to get opposition, or it's going to get support, or it's going to have technical issues. So we might want to put an asterisk in here somewhere that lets the selectmen know that there's at least a little possibility that we might have this budget, but then go over it. I'm not suggesting we add to our budget. I'm just suggesting that we at least cover ourselves by saying we might come to you later and say we need money for 3 more hearings, or that we didn't budget for. You know, maybe they already know that, but
Yeah,
yes?
I think we can add something there, Adam, without any difficulty.
Yeah.
You want to put it right into section 2 here, Adam?
It could go there, and I sort of roughed it out. I said, please note that if the application, if applications delayed by COVID are filed all at once in fiscal 2021, public hearing expenses would increase, including publication and clerk. Something like that.
Okay.
Clerk, clerk compensation.
So I'll just answer that question while there's a bit of a pause. I'm not aware of anything that's, specifically on hold because of COVID. I know that Patrice and I have had conversations with a couple of different potential applicants that may be coming forward in the next fiscal year, or potentially even at the end of this fiscal year. So, but they're not necessarily being held up because of COVID.
Okay. I don't know, any other member of the commission want to comment about the narrative, and then we'll just move on to the budget itself? I can't see them, so.
How about if I do this then and stop sharing and see if anybody's there? There we go.
Anyone?
I'm good.
Anyone have any issues with the narrative as it was? Looks like not. Jim?
I'm good with it.
Okay. All right. You want to, Patrice, you want to put up the budget now? And essentially it's a flat budget, no change.
Correct. It does note on the bottom here that the budget, it doesn't note exactly how you said it, but it does note that the budget can flex based on the amount of activity that comes before the commission.
Right. And I think there was an accompanying drop proposal for a $400 potential drop if that was forced on us out of the payroll, and that would presumably represent the hope that we wouldn't have a lot of applications, or the possibility that we wouldn't have a lot of applications, and the budget could be reduced by that, which is about 5% for those, a little less, a little more than 5%. Sorry.
Correct.
So, all right, why don't you take that down, and we'll see if anybody wants to comment. Any comments from members of the commission? Not seeing any.
This was the drop you were talking about.
Right. So I guess what I'm suggesting is that we have a motion to approve all 3 of these things together with the suggested change that we discussed to item 2 on the narrative. Does anyone have a problem with that?
No.
All right. Do we have a motion from anyone? Tom? Sorry, Mr. Manning. So there's 2 times.
Manning moves that we approve the budget narrative as amended, the budget and the drop as presented.
I'll second.
And that was Mr. Fournier, or no, Mr. Robb?
Yep.
Sorry. What? Mr. Fournier? Okay. Sorry, I wasn't looking.
Okay. I'll speak next time.
All right. And all right, we have a motion to approve and a second to approve those three documents, the budget narrative, the budget, and the proposed drop as they are, with that one change to item 2 on the budget narrative. Any discussion of that motion? Seeing no interest. Let's go by roll call. In favor or opposed? Mr. Fournier?
Aye.
Ms. Fiano?
That was an aye. I could see her lips moving.
Okay. Mr. Davies?
Yes. Aye.
Mr. Robbins?
Aye.
Mr. Manning?
Aye.
Mr. Cropley?
Aye.
Chair also votes aye. That is unanimous. Very good. Okay. Item 8. Oh, I'm sorry. Item 7B, other new business. Patrice, is there any?
I have none. I didn't know, again, if any commissioners had anything they wanted to discuss.
Any commissioner want to raise anything or put anything on the next agenda? See none. Item 8, correspondence. Report on statewide planning conversation, racism planning zoning. Patrice, anything new on that?
There's been nothing new that I know of. I have not attended any more of their meetings. There was, however, a diversity meeting at the CCM conference on the last day. That was in the afternoon, and it was a discussion with 4 pretty nationally known speakers, and I'm hoping they're going to make that something that we can share. And if they do, I will send it out to all of you and you can listen to it at your leisure. But it was really well done. And I think it was very interesting to hear the discussion that's going on, outside of Bolton, if you will, outside of our little bubble. So
in that, anything that informs the accessory dwelling unit discussion at all from that?
No, this was more of just a general diversity and background type of discussion as opposed to anything more pointed. So yeah, no, not regarding that.
Okay.
The other thing I know it's probably going to get talked about, the other part of correspondence I had, but you've already mentioned it, Adam, is there's a joint land use meeting on Monday night at 7 p.m. that you're all not only encouraged, but I think they'd like to see you there if possible. If you need the Zoom information, you can email me or let me know. And
well, they sent it yesterday, didn't they? Or was it? Did they send it to everybody or just to the chairs?
I don't think they did. I think they sent it just to you.
I forwarded the first one, but I didn't forward the second one. So I guess I should.
I will.
Can you forward it? Because I think you have the distribution list and I don't.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry about that.
One of the things is going to get discussed, and I don't know how far this is going to go, and maybe Jim can help me here, but I know the staff anyway and the Board of Selectmen, I believe, are going to go through a diversity training session. And I think it was originally thought it was going to happen in December, and now it looks like January sometime. I don't know if they're going to ask commissioners to go through that or offer it. I'm just not sure, but that is one of the other items.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think there was something about the boards each giving some kind of a summary for this meeting on Monday.
Yes.
Okay. I guess that's me. Huh?
I think it's basically what we've been working on. I don't know if there were goals involved or not. I have to go back and look, but I'll send the email out to everybody. So.
Okay. Does anybody have Tom? I see your hand.
Yeah, just to follow up on item 8. Desegregate Connecticut made the major presentation at the Regional Planning Commission meeting, and there was nothing new of substance. So I think we're doing whatever we can at this point.
Was that the
Chris?
CROG meeting, right, Tom?
Right, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Chris Davey?
Thank you. The meeting on Monday, the Land Use Board meeting, will members be given an overview of some of the changes that the Charter Revision Commission is looking at making to the various land boards? And if not, is that something that we as a commission should consider at one of our agendas? I don't know whether it's appropriate, for us to discuss and either make a recommendation or express an opinion of the commission. But I was wondering if it's something we should talk about as a commission, perhaps at our next meeting.
As you all probably know, I'm a member of the Charter Revision Board, Charter Revision Commission. First of all, as far as the agenda to the Land Use Commission's joint meeting, it's really, there is nothing about charter revision in there. And I have no idea if anyone will bring that issue up. I don't know that that's, that it's part of my brief as Planning and Zoning Commission chair attending that meeting, but anyone, I suppose, could, and certainly a member of the public could. For members of this commission's information, just to bring this information to you, the charter, you can take that down. It's just a listing of the of the board.
No, but I just want to note that it's just updates and reports from each of these commissions. The Charter Revision Commission is not one of the commissions; these are land use commission. And then it's a discussion on goals for next year, current challenges and opportunities, and then opportunities to collaborate. So,
so the answer, the sort of follow up to Chris's question is that Charter Revision Commission has discussed the issue of, number one, making this board, instead of being an elected board, an appointed board. And the second issue it's discussed is to combine this board with the Wetlands Board. And both of those are proposals that have received support from a majority of the Charter Commission. For various reasons, and you can look at their minutes if you want to hear the full discussion, but I guess to summarize it, one is the sense that it's difficult to get people to run, and that appointing people gives people an opportunity to volunteer and be part of it without the need to run in an actual election, and that there are a lot of people who would like to serve but don't want to have to run an election and be elected officials. That's one thing, although whether that's going to turn out to be true, I guess we'll see. The second piece about appointing people is that the proposal includes expanding the Board of Selectmen to 7 members, and making sort of the Board of Selectmen more accountable for everything that happens in the town by giving them the ability to appoint people to the land use boards, and giving them 4-year terms instead of 2 years, but holding them accountable, for who they put on boards and what they do and what those boards do and so on. To try to kind of get a more coordinated approach to things like economic development, planning, and land use, that's more coordinated by the Board of Selectmen, which ultimately is the authority in this town for almost everything except land use decisions that we make right now as elected officials. I don't necessarily think that this is something that everybody will love, but it does have the support of a majority of the Charter Revision Commission, including bipartisan support in most instances. So it's not a fait accompli, though, because a final vote on any of this stuff has not been taken. These are all concepts that have been generally discussed and approved, and will go on to final voting or final drafting and voting when and if the Charter Commission, which meets tomorrow night, by the way, that's my next Zoom meeting. They're all welcome to join. And it will, change the way land use decisions are made in town, but not necessarily the people who make them, just to some extent how they're done. Any comments or questions? Certainly, we have a little time, so we're not close to our curfew.
Yeah, how does combining Pzcc with inland wetlands affect the statutory process?
Well, the short answer is it simplifies it. I mean, now you have to wait for wetlands to have a report, or if you don't, you have to factor in the possibility. I mean, typically people get their wetlands permit first and then go to a final decision by planning and zoning. Well, if they're combined, planning and zoning can do it all on one night if it's possible to do it. And there's sort of an unstated assumption here, which is that most of the applications are not that complicated. Like one board could handle them if it had a good complement of people relatively easily, and not worry about, well, we need a bunch of specialists to do the wetland stuff and a bunch of specialists to do the planning and zoning stuff. Now, it's true that every once in a while, a more complicated application will come up that requires, dive into the details. And that's where, the staff and getting proper review and getting, additional experts might have to happen. But I think there's sort of a sense that, how many times have we, like even this case, we talked about a case tonight. An applicant says, well, we've decided to make changes, so we have to go back to wetlands, and now we have to, that's a 2-month delay for them because they got to go to wetlands 1 month, and then we only meet once a month, for those kinds of applications. So it would be possible for them to come and get those changes done all in one forum. Now, does that put a lot on the people who sit on this board if it's a combined board? Yeah, maybe a little more than it would otherwise. But, I don't think we've been incapable of handling complicated applications over the years. So it's an effort to make things more workable and less Byzantine both for the applicants and for the public, because I think I'd be a little frustrated if I were a member of public and I had to go to 2 meetings to express and talk to 2 completely different groups of people who might not disagree, to express my feelings about a particular application, and then potentially have those 2 groups of decision makers come up with something that's not consistent. So, any comment about that?
We're
really take it back.
Aquifer protection, which is more critical, actually.
In theory, I guess. Not that we've had an application about the aquifers
I'm
How
just
long?
curious how you would run that meeting. You'd have to still run the Wetlands Commission meeting separate from the Planning and Zoning meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen other bodies do that. You know, there are towns where the town council is all of it, right? So they do both of those things.
Mm-hmm. Not many, but yes, there is.
Not many, but there are. So, I mean, it's doable. It's just, it takes a certain amount of skill to keep those things straight, and a good staff, of course, which I hope we have. I do think we have. And maybe it might take more paid staff or more time from paid staff to make sure that those kinds of things are shepherded properly. But
I do have a question.
I'm sorry, Arlene, go ahead.
Are they going to offer some kind of wetlands education for all of us who sit?
I believe wetlands boards have to go through a training process.
They do.
So,
With DEP.
so that would be a requirement then of sitting on the board. The DEP we'd have, the people who chose to do it would have to go to the DEP training, which frankly I would think we'd all benefit from whether we were on the wetlands board or not. But I mean, look, this is not a slam dunk. And of course, it's not up to the Charter Revision Commission. It goes to the voters. Actually, first it goes to the selectmen. And if they don't like it, they just don't put it out to the voters and they leave the charter as is, or they put the parts that they like out and not the parts that they don't like. And then the voters get their crack at it. So if it were to happen, it would go on the next fall election. So it's a year away. And then there would be some kind of transition period. So we've also proposed some changes just for general interest. We've proposed some changes to the Board of Finance, creating instead a finance commission made up of members of the Board of Selectmen, members of the Board of Education, and 2 at-large appointees from the town at large. Which would then take over all the functions of the current Board of Finance. Mayor Lee?
Is that the whole trend is sort of centralize things more and more?
I wouldn't exactly say centralizing, but because there's not one person. I mean, the Charter Revision Commission considered the idea of a so-called strong first selectman and pretty much voted it down, although narrowly. They also considered a town manager and voted those down. Those would truly be centralized.
Okay.
The trend in the discussions has been to make a smaller group of people accountable for the whole process, and then give them the tools to work through what they're accountable for by, picking the people who are going to make land use decisions and picking the people who are going to make budget decisions. But that 7 people on the Board of Selectmen, they would ultimately, that would be where the buck stops. And if you don't like them, you would vote them out. And you'd have that opportunity probably every 4 years. Which you might like or you might not like. I don't know. Don't vote at the referendum, I guess.
Adam, probably ask a question. So when they vote on that, when it goes to the town, is it like a package deal? Like, here, this is what the new charter revision wants to do? Or are things separated?
That is an issue that has not yet been resolved by the Charter Revision Commission, but ultimately will be up to the Board of Selectmen because they get to decide how it goes to the voters and in what package. The sense is it would probably be multiple questions with a sort of either or kind of package, but it might be all one piece, and it might be an up or down vote. It can go either way because it's permitted to do it either way. You can have as many questions as you want, or you can have one big question.
Okay, thank you.
So, tune in tomorrow night. Anyway, I'm not the spokesman for the commission, so I'm only a member. The chair is Gwen Marion, and the vice chair is Eleanor George, and you're welcome to ask any member of the commission any question you want. Or we have a public forum at our meetings, just like this commission does.
So I understand the coin toss is being saved?
Uniquely
the coin toss has some real supporters. They just love the idea. I wanted a craps game, but nobody would go with that. Or maybe a roulette wheel. All right. Any other business that anyone wants to raise or question?
Adam, Jim Copley, I have a question.
Sure.
On the accessory dwelling, when we adopt that, if we do adopt it and how whatever it is, would things that have happened in the past be able to be changed to accept that? Like if someone had an application in or tried to do something 5 years ago and it was denied, would they now be able to do that?
If they met the regulation.
Be able to apply under the new regulation, sure.
They could. Okay.
They could if they want to, sure. If it relaxes it. The only thing we can't do is apply a more, well, I guess no, we can apply a more strict regulation, but it wouldn't be more strict, it would be more permissive. Okay. In this scenario we've been talking about.
Right.
Because we're pretty strict now.
Yep.
And I'm sure people would. And that's the whole point, right?
Yeah, no, I was just wondering because I know there's been some applications where things were denied for that type of a situation, and so those people could come back.
I don't know that we've denied an accessory dwelling in a long time. Not that. Which one?
You know, John Treat. You know how he has that little cabin out there?
Right.
That's only can be a seasonal. Wasn't that the way that was turned out to be? We
didn't do that. I don't remember that an application about that coming to us.
Board of Appeals, maybe.
Not while I've been.
Yes.
So there was some discussion about that, and what the ultimate decision was is that it had been used as it was established for traveling farm workers, and so generally it needed to follow the same use pattern that it had, because otherwise, I mean, it would not be appropriate because it's an existing non-conforming use. But if the regulation changed such that we didn't require accessory dwellings to be within or attached to the main dwelling, it may change his ability to use it. Ultimately, Mr. Treat chose not to pursue any application or any ZBA application.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that ever came to us. It may have come to you as CEO, but it never came to us as an application.
That's correct.
Yeah, it might have been when I was on Zoning Board of Appeals. I think I know he's come to the meeting. It might have been then, but
yeah, he withdrew that application.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't recall ever having dealt with an application about that issue. kind of an interesting.
But things like that, so they would, people, that just came to my mind. So, but if other things were denied, they could come back, and if the new regulation was, easier.
Yeah, you can always reapply for something if the regulation changes to allow it.
Okay.
And you're grandfathered if you have something that's been approved and the regulation changes to not allow it. You're a pre-existing non-conforming use, and you're allowed to continue it, just not expand it or make it more intensive. That's all, or more non-conforming. But I think that we would end up with a fair number of accessory dwelling units if we significantly relax the rules for those things, and I'm not sure. I'd like to do that in some situations, but I'd also like to make sure the town knows we're doing it so that we don't do it and then have people be really upset that they're seeing them pop up all over the place. So.
Right. I mean, I could see people putting on garages and putting an apartment above it.
Oh, yeah. Well, there are lots of people who already have space above their garages or next to their garages.
You could have.
I mean, bonus rooms were a big thing in some of these larger homes.
Yeah.
Or unfinished extra space, one way or the other. And a lot of the regulations that we've looked at allow it in basements, even, right?
Yes, they do.
They're not prohibited necessarily, even mostly in walkout basements, but not exclusively. So that whole possibility opens up, well, that whole kind of subject opens up a lot of possibilities. And I think when we address this, we should have a public hearing and publicize it enough so people are generally aware that it will become a thing that's allowed, because it really isn't very much allowed now. But
yeah, I mean, I just would hate to see, people putting up garages and,
But that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
They'll put up garages and they'll put up detached buildings and they'll put up, because, look, I mean, it's expensive to live in a town like this. And if people can make it possible for themselves to do that by renting out another unit on their land or allow their family member to live there cheaply, they will. That's the whole point. And, it makes something economically possible that wasn't before. So yeah, people will do a lot of it. I predict that will happen a lot if we significantly relax those regulations, especially if you allow a second building on a single family 1 acre lot. That's definitely.
Are we going to make sure that we have some sort of formula in the regulation to prevent somebody who has multiple acres from putting lots of accessory dwellings? And I'm also thinking of, a farmer situation where maybe there's a couple of barns that are already on the property. What's to prevent them from converting each of those barns into several loft apartments and, then renting those out? You could have a situation where, somebody has 4 apartments that they're renting on their property.
Will become Greenwich Village. There'll be artists' colonies here.
Right. I guess it's how far do we want to take the regulation?
Well,
how do we prevent excesses?
I think Tom is always the one who says we should regulate, numbers and facts on the ground and not
things you can enforce. I believe is how
right.
he put
So
it last
density and number of units and space and lot coverage and all those formulas are out there and probably usable, and limiting, the number of them per parcel, making people subdivide to get more. which means they have to go through subdivision regulations. You know, those are all techniques we would be well advised to consider, but I don't know, Tom, you disagree?
No, I agree. I think what I think what Desegregate Connecticut has in mind is one.
Right.
Right. But that begs the question, which what exactly are they trying to achieve by adding 1 unit per lot? And why is that the limit?
Well, there's other things besides accessory dwelling unit that they're proposing, so they're not putting everything into that basket. Right.
Understood. I'm always that whole discussion we had before about owner occupied versus not owner occupied. Okay, so we are pretty close to our usual curfew. Well, actually, we're not. But I'd be happy to adjourn unless anybody objects.
Mr. Chairman, I'm
hearing none.
I actually heard. I think I was hearing a motion there.
Did I hear a motion? Who did I hear it from?
That was Jim Cropley.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Cropley. Do we have a second? Not that we need one.
Can it?
Oh, is that
Rodney?
Mr. Fournier?
Yep.
We have a second for Mr. Fournier. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Good night, everyone. Have a good holiday.
Good night.
Whatever that holiday may be.
Maybe we'll see you Monday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks, sir.
Maybe we'll see you Monday. I have to be there.
Take
Good
care.
night, all.